Hello, everyone. I am Gold Derby senior editor Daniel Montgomery, and I'm here with Danny Lazo. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
That's correct, yeah.
Danny Lazo, who is our predictions contest winner for week 5 of Dancing with the Stars, which was Disney night this past Monday as we're recording this. You got the highest prediction score, 71% correct, which you only missed, I believe, 2 questions that we asked. The ones you missed were who received the judge's highest score, which was Jordan Fisher. You had him ranked second, but you had Victoria Arlen for that. And one that I also got wrong, how many 10s will the judges give out? 1 to 4. I thought they would still give out 1 to 4, but they gave out more than that. So those are the only 2 questions you missed. Well, for starters, let me before giving you the bragging rights of what you got right, I want to know how long you've been watching the show. Is it something you just caught on to this season, or are you a longtime fan?
So I was kind of a longtime fan since 2009 or 8, I think, when Christy Yamaguchi, I think's her name, whenever she won. And I kind of continued watching it all the way to Amber Riley, which I think was like 2013 or something like that. And then kind of stopped for a while. I kind of picked it up 2 seasons ago, watched it on and off. This season's been pretty good, so I kind of kept up with it. So, yeah, I guess kind of like a longtime fan.
Yeah. What do you think of this season in general compared to others that you followed?
This season's actually really interesting. I don't think I've seen a season that's been so tight. I mean, this week alone, all the scores were pretty good. I think Nick Lachey got 22, so that was the lowest score. So I mean, it's a really good season.
And so let's go with some of these results that you got correct, of course. And one of them was the elimination of Sasha Pieterse from Pretty Little Liars. I missed this one, but I knew she was one of those who might be vulnerable. Again, as you mentioned, the season is incredibly tight, so it's kind of, there were about 5 or 6 people who could have very plausibly gone home. So what made you predict that Sasha was going to be eliminated?
Honestly, sometimes on these predictions, if there's someone that's like predicted number 1, I'll kind of choose someone else. Just, but also, I mean, the thing with Sasha is that a lot of times with Dancing with the Stars, there's like a little bit of voter bias, depending on the pros that they're paired up with. Also, depending how well the star is known, things like that. Sasha, I mean, she was on Pretty Little Liars. I don't know if she's really been on anything else other than that. So just comparing her results from last week, and then the fact that she wasn't really with a really popular pro, like someone like Val or Mark or something like that, I think really kind of might be the reason that she went home. Like maybe if Victoria would have been paired up with who Sasha had and Sasha with Val, the results could have been different.
And do you think it was just elimination, or do you wish that she had gone further in the competition? I mean, I find myself looking at, like, I did like her work, but given how tight the season has been, it's hard for me to think of anyone else who I might have sooner sent home, except maybe Nick Lachey, who has been less consistent.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, the only other person I could have thought of was probably Nick Lachey. Because it's been so tight, her, Nick Lachey, and I think Vanessa Lachey were the only ones that haven't, really scored a 9 yet. So it kind of makes sense. I'm not completely upset that she went home, but possibly would have maybe preferred to see Nick go home versus her.
Do you think we'll see Nick go home next week?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think he has a really good, fan base probably going into this. So if anything, I feel like maybe next week we might see Vanessa or Drew go home. So that's what I'm thinking.
I do also have a little bit of worry for Vanessa. I feel like that, now since Sasha was sent home, the bottom 2 on the leaderboard are both Lachey's. And Nick Lachey, having been at the bottom before and surviving, we know he has some amount of fan support. And being at the bottom might get him even more fan support if people want to make sure he stays in the competition, fans of his. Vanessa, maybe her fans, depending on how powerful they are, they might be more complacent because she's not at the bottom. She's kind of near the bottom, and people might not have realized how vulnerable she is, and potentially she could go home. I keep wavering between the two.
Exactly. No, and I agree completely. I mean, I guess we'll see, but I could definitely see maybe even some of the Knicks fans maybe voting for her, keeping her safe. And then that's why I thought maybe Drew might go home or something like that. So I guess we'll see next week.
Now, for the predictions that we have for the entire season, who will win Dancing with the Stars, of course. Going into this week's episode, you were predicting Lindsey Sterling. I've been predicting her for much of the season as well. But Jordan Fisher got that perfect score. I noticed that in our odds for this week's for this coming week's episode so far, he's moved back up into first place, and those two have been trading the lead. Where are you in terms of who will win the Mirror Ball Trophy as of today?
And that's the whole thing. I think it's going to be as of today type of situation, depending on that week, whoever maybe did a better performance, brought more to the dance floor, is probably going to be the person that's leading. So right now I would say probably Jordan. The dance from Monday was really good. I really enjoyed it. But Lindsey Sterling's still right there, and I keep going back and forth between those two. So I honestly think either one of those two could win it.
It's so interesting, a season like this that feels so competitive, and yet it feels like it's very competitive for third place and then first place, because it's hard to imagine. I mean, there could be a shocker. We've seen it before, but it's hard to imagine that Lindsey and Jordan don't finish 1 and 2 in some combination or other. But pretty much almost anyone else, I feel like, could end up in the finals in third place.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Completely true. Because, we've seen times where, we're saying Nick Lachey should go home and all that. But then we've seen times, I think it was, snuck into that final 3 when, I know I was predicting every single week, this will be the week that she goes home. This will be the week that she goes home, So I definitely agree with you. It could be anyone at this point that gets that third place. It sneaks into that final 3.
Yeah. I don't know if you were watching this previous season that just happened in the spring, but I call that the David Ross effect, where it seems like every week he's going to go home. Every week he's going to go home. I feel like if he were competing this season, it's so competitive that I feel like even at, they're just like nine contestants left, so it's still a lot of people in the competition. I feel like he finished second place last season. I feel like he'd already be the worst dancer this season, just in terms of how competent so many of these dancers are.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of other seasons where we see these people making it to top 5, things like that on this season, and like what you said, Sasha, put her on another season, she might have made it really far, so it's completely true.
Yeah. And there are other predictions, questions that we have this season that are new this season, having to do with the judges, who will give the highest scores and who will give the lowest scores. And that's interesting in your predictions, because it's been easy for most of this season. Like most weeks, Carrie-Ann Inaba gives the most points. She's the most generous judge overall, and Len Goodman is the stingiest judge. And when I tallied it up, added up everybody's numbers this week, I was very surprised that it was like 1 point separating the 3 of them, each of them. Carrie-Ann Inaba was, again, the most generous judge, but Bruno was actually the stingiest judge. Len had a soft side this week, and you predicted Bruno that would be the stingiest judge this week. What made you think that? Was it just this week, or is that something you've been predicting consistently?
No, it was honestly just this week, and it was purely out of luck. I think Len's odds were like 1 to 100 or something like that. So I was like, let me just choose Bruno and see if it happens, and it actually did. So completely out of luck. I'm not even going to try to brag about that one.
Yeah, but one thing you can brag about, and one thing that I have noticed, is that if you notice a front runner in our predictions, a lot of times it's really good, if you want to predict all our front runners, chances are you'll be really great in the middle of the pack. But if you want to win from week to week, you sort of have to go out on at least one limb, because there'll be one thing that the group doesn't get, but that maybe 1 or 2 people will get, and that's the difference. I myself, can't win our predictions contest, so I tend to be a little bit more conservative, which helps me season long, but not so much week to week. So is that something that's part? Do you look every week for that one category? It's like, okay, where is the consensus maybe missing it?
Yeah, completely. I mean, and Hell's Kitchen, Survivor, all of those. I kind of just try to see where there might be like a little difference. Maybe there might be like two people that they're in between for elimination, and I'll go with the third one. Like for instance, last week with Sasha. I don't remember where she ranked on there, but I had a feeling Nick was gonna stay. Same thing with Drew, and I was like, let me just choose Sasha and see what happens.
So, at the risk of spilling your secrets coming into this week's, is there one particular limb that you're going on going into this next week's episode?
Honestly, I think the only limb this week would just be that Nick's staying. I don't know why. I kind of have a feeling. I think he's still number one on there, right, for going home this week?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to stick with either Drew or Vanessa going home. I might switch in between those, but that's what I guess my gut feeling is.
And, any other thoughts about this season overall, or what you're most looking forward to from the rest of the season?
I'm definitely looking forward to, some of the dances. I mean, this last week, the scores were really high, so it's going to be really interesting going in. Because some of these people, they're just a couple points away. So it's really going to come down to who the viewers actually want to see win or get to the final three. So I guess I'm just excited to see how it turns out.
Thank you very much for taking part in our Gold Derby predictions and for speaking with me today. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel.